In today's video, I'm going to be using 3 different types of umbrellas to create a dramatic portrait. Hey everybody, Lindsay Adler here. Early on in my studio lighting, the first modifier I grabbed was an umbrella. It was super inexpensive, I couldn't even tell you the brand, and I used it to create my very first portraits. And they were terrible. They were horrible portraits, terribly lit, and for the longest time, I just assumed that it meant that umbrella modifiers were bad. But in fact, it was just because my early photography was bad. And in fact, today, I use umbrellas all the time in my work. And so what I would like to show you is I'd like to show you a couple different types of umbrellas and how we're going to use them in conjunction, use them together to create a dramatic portrait of an actor. Now, when we talk about different types of umbrellas, there are so many different varieties. So first of all, you can have variation in the size of umbrella, so small, medium, large, extra large. You can have variation in the surface. Some are silver and some are white. You can also have variation in whether they are bounce umbrellas or shoot-through umbrellas, and so on and so forth. In fact, you can then modify umbrellas, kind of like you see the one behind me where you can close them, you can add diffusion. So I'm going to talk about how the tools here are giving me a main light, a hair light, and a background light, each using a different type of umbrella. Now, by the way, once you see these images and see just how versatile an umbrella can be, if you want to learn more, I just created a brand new umbrella lighting guide. And in this guide, I have 20 different setups and they cover the map. So I have everything from dramatic portraits like you see here, to catalog images, to headshots, to super colorful gel images, and much more. So if you're liking what you're seeing from umbrellas, you can check out that guide and you can find that in the description below. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to begin with our main light, and that's actually where we have something kind of unusual going on. Over here to the left-hand side, I have a silver umbrella. Now, the reason I chose silver is anytime you choose a silver surface, it's a little more specular and it's a little bit harder. So what that means is it's going to be a little bit more crisp, it's going to be a little bit more defined, maybe a little bit shinier, and I am going for a dramatic portrait, especially of a male subject, so I thought that would be a good main light source. But you'll notice I've closed it down a little bit. And the reason that I've done that is it actually helps control the spread of light. I want the background to fall to shadow. I want it to be almost pure black. But when I had opened up the umbrella, there was spill light onto the background. So here what it's doing is it's giving me a smaller light source, which makes it harder and more defined on my subject, but it also limits the spread of light, so it is going to be really concentrated. So let's take a look at what we're getting from the very first light. All right, so you can see a few things going on here. First of all, the umbrella is still pretty flattering on his skin. It's giving me nice smooth highlights. I've got a little bit more definition to the shadows, but overall it's a nice flattering light. But look at the background. Because I've closed down the umbrella like you see there, it is falling to almost complete black. Now, my intention for this shot, of course, I could shoot in color, but I do want to shoot in black and white. And because I'm shooting tethered, I like it because if I convert to black and white now, as the images come in, I can better see how the light is translating to a black and white conversion. Sometimes when I switch to black and white and I add contrast, I go, oh, I need to add a little bit more fill, or I like the brighter highlight. So I like to visualize, which is why I shoot tethered. I am shooting tethered with one of Tether Tools' newer long cables. And so this cable is giving me a lot of flexibility, plus it has some boosters, which helps keep the connection more stable. All right, so converted to black and white, I'm gonna pop my clarity just a little bit, any tiny bit more contrast. Then here in Capture One, I'm going to copy these adjustments, apply them down, so every image that I take now will come in as a black and white. So far, I've got my silver umbrella, no diffusion, no adjustments, closed down for a tighter area of light, but now he blends into the background. So I have to decide how I want to separate him out. I can either add a background light or a hair light or a rim light or all of those things. So actually, I think his hair is beautiful. So we're going to add a hair light. So this is our second type of umbrella. Boomed out behind our subject, we have a medium umbrella with diffusion. Now the reason that it's boomed out behind him is it's going to kiss the top of his hair, which will give us some really nice separation, a really beautiful hair light, which gives us a little bit of an old Hollywood look, a little bit more traditional. Now in this case, it is a white umbrella and it has diffusion. When you make this choice, it is going to give you a softer light. Now for the hair lights, to be honest, It didn't really matter if I chose a silver or a white. It didn't make a huge difference in this case. Very often I will use a medium umbrella with diffusion close to the face when I need extra soft light. If somebody has a lot of texture or their skin is a little bit shiny, choosing a modifier like that with the diffusion is going to be a better choice than, say, the silver. In this case, what it's doing is that diffusion is just softening the light, spreading it out over top of the scene. So now he's going to have nice highlights on his shoulders, the top of his hair, and it will give a little pop from the background without being too contrasty. So let's see what the second light, that second umbrella, adds to the scene. His hair has that nice glow. We've got that nice separation. And I think if I wanted to, I could stop there for the photo, but I will say I don't think it has a lot of depth. It looks just a little bit flat because the background does go to pure black. One of my favorite techniques is to take a light low behind the subject, often on a floor stand, which is what we have in this example. We have it tucked behind him, and we're going to use that to create depth, not just by lighting the background, but lighting the background in a way that creates a gradient. In other words, it will not be flat lit where the background is all one tonality, but it'll be brighter lower on the frame and then fade to shadow higher on the frame. That's why higher up on the frame, that hair light will be really helpful because likely behind his head, behind the top of his hair, will go to pure shadow. So basically it gives him more definition on the bottom where his shirt and the lower part of the frame is darker. There'll be a lighter background. Then higher up on the background, it will be darker, but he'll have a hair light. All right, so let's add that third umbrella. So the third umbrella we have here is a small white shoot-through umbrella. Now, the reason that we chose a small umbrella is because it allows us to hide it behind our subject. If we had a bigger umbrella, a bigger modifier, we wouldn't be able to, and so it would give us a lot less flexibility with our cropping and our composition. Now, the reason that we've chosen a shoot-through is we need it to light the background, and we want to do so in a way that's nice and even. But if we turned it to a bounce umbrella, it is probably a little bit too close to the background to get the coverage that we need. So giving it a shoot-through will then give us a nice spread of light, and it allows us to work in a very compact space. The other thing that the shoot-through does is it's actually a shoot-through with a little bit of a silk, so it bounces a little light back onto our subject as well. So it is accomplishing two things. It lights the background in a gradient, and it kicks just a little bit of rim light, maybe on the side of his shoulders or the side of his face, because it is bouncing back towards him. Though I will say most of the light is passing through. All right, so let's see what that third light looks like. So you can see now we have our three different umbrellas: a silver umbrella, a shoot-through umbrella, and a white umbrella with diffusion. Now, of course, I could swap in other modifiers. For example, I could be using beauty dishes and strip softbox and whatnot and still get a similar result. So why might I choose umbrellas? Umbrellas are great because of a few reasons. First of all, they're probably the least expensive modifier. So if you're just building your lighting kit, it can be expensive to buy beauty dishes and softboxes and whatnot, but you can achieve a lot with an umbrella so it doesn't break the bank. The next part of it is that they're really easy to use. You pop them open. You don't need to set them up like a softbox, which can be pretty daunting. And then finally, they're portable, extremely portable. So if you were trying to do a set like this on location, you don't need to have big bulky gear or gear that you need to take a lot of time to set up once you get to the location. So affordability, versatility, as you see here, also the fact that they're compact and much more. So now the lighting looks good, but as you guys know, lighting is just one part of the equation. So Peyton here, he is a model and actor. So we're going to get some shots where he shows a little bit of emotion. I do some that are more flattering leading man portraits. And that's exactly what I'm getting from the lighting here. Today I'm going to be shooting with my go-to camera and lens combo. I've got the Canon R5 and the Canon RF 24-105 2.8 lens. Now I'm not shooting at 2.8 right now, but the reason I love this lens is because it gives me tons of versatility. So I can shoot from 24 to 105 and I can shoot wide open if I want, and it's all in one lens. So today I'll likely be shooting more at f8, f11, and it looks like a lot of these portraits that I'm taking are around 90 millimeters. All right, so let's go get our shot. are some beautiful, dramatic portraits done with 3 different types of umbrellas. And so you can see just how versatile those are as a tool. I can use them to create a gradient on the background, more concentrated light on the face, or a beautiful hair light. So next time you are looking to add to your kit and you're trying to stay within your budget, you might consider umbrellas, because if you know how to use them, they can create really diverse results and beautiful images just like this. Now, of course, if you want to see the gear that I use in the making of these images, be sure to check out the links in the description below and visit adorama.com. And don't forget, I have the umbrella lighting guide, and I have 20 different setups that are all so different in what you can produce out of an umbrella. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, because I have a lot more videos just like this one coming your way. See you next time.